इस मैगजीन का सारा क्रेडिट VMIAS को और उनकी टीम को जाता है. So now let us begin with the very first topic, that is snapshot of Indian economy. ये वाले जो भी टॉपिक्स में से जो डेटा है ना, इसको बहुत सारे मल्टीपल आंसर्स में बहुत सारी जगहों पे यूज कर सकते हैं. मैं सिर्फ इम्पोर्टेंट इम्पोर्टेंट बताता जाऊंगा जिन्हें हम डायरेक्टली अपने मेंस के आंसर में यूज करके आंसर अपना एनरिच कर पाएंगे. So looking at the glance of the Indian economy, we are basically the world's fourth largest economy. Then talking about the external trade, so India's export in 2023-2024 reached around 778.21 billion. You can round it off to 779 billion for uh, it will be easy for you to remember. Then our trade deficit also narrowed to $21.88 billion in 2025 May. Then unemployment was 5.1% as per the periodic labor force survey. Then the debt. So India's external debt is dollar 717.9 billion, and our external debt to GDP ratio is around 19.1%. Poverty in India fell sharply from 16.2% in 2011-12 to 2.3%. So it's around 14% decrease according to the World Bank. Then if we see the sectoral composition of the nominal GVA, that is the gross value added in 2024-2025. So public administration, defense and other services constitute around 15%. Our agriculture, livestock, fishery, forestry constitute about 18%. Manufacturing is 14%, and mining and quarrying is 2%. Then trade, hotel, transport is around 17%. Real estate, professional services is around 23%. Now, what are the key goals? So, a key goal of India is to become a developed country by 2024. Then also India has targeted to become the third largest economy. That is, we are targeting a $5 trillion economy by 27-28 and $7 trillion by 2030. Apart from this, what are Foreign Trade Policy 2023 targets? It targets to boost India's export to around 2 trillion US dollars by 2030. So these are basically our targets. We can use them in writing any introduction of economics related question. Then government is also aiming to raise the per capita income. It is around $2,500 right now. So we are almost trying to double it, getting it around 4418 dollar. Then we are trying to reach a fiscal deficit level of below 4.5% of GDP by this year, that is 2025-2026. Then what are the key constraints in achieving these targets? So we have a large debt and a stock of huge interest burden. Then the risk coming from higher global crude and commodity prices also impacts us. Then there is a slowdown of hyperglobalization, and around 40% of employment, global employment, is exposed to AI. So this is also a big challenge that 40% of global employment is exposed to AI. Then there is lack of skilled and talented workforce, and other challenges also exist, like there is a digital divide, there is a infrastructural deficit. Our capital expenditure is way more less than our revenue expenditure. Then what can be the way forward for this problem? So the way forward could be We can diverse our export basket. We can streamline our tax system. Here we can also write about progressive taxation regime. Then we can focus on manufacturing sector, especially the MSME sector, to make India a global manufacturing hub. Other than this, the remaining are very generalistic points that we have to be cautious about our fiscal policy. We need to increase public investment in infrastructure. Then we need to improve the central bank's monetary policy effectiveness. So that's it for this one. Now moving on to the next topic, that is India's structural transformation. So why is this in news? So recently IMF released a working paper. You don't need to remember the title. The title is Advancing India's Structural Transformation and Catch Up to Technology Frontier. So what is basically structural transformation? So it is the transition of an economy from a low productive and labor intensive economy activity to higher productive and skill intensive activity. So this is very simple. Now, what are the steps taken for getting the structural reforms? So we did tax reform, we bought GST, and we also did corporate tax rationalization. Then we have PLI schemes to attract investments in the key sector. Then we also have the insolvency and bankruptcy code, so that it improves the credit culture of our nation. Then we also have four labor codes, the labor reforms, which enhances the ease of doing business in India. Then we have digital infrastructure like BharatNet. So these are basically the steps taken for structural reforms. Now, what were the key issues highlighted by the paper published by IMF? So, the major issue it says it's there is a sectoral imbalance. Agriculture still accounts for 42% of employment, whereas its contribution is just 18% to the GDP. Then there is uneven technological adaptation by industries. Service sector is outperformed by manufacturing in technology adaptation. Then there is the rise of low skill jobs. So it says that construction sector rise with about 12% of workers in 2019. So this is basically increasing informalization trend. Then there is low productivity. So in 2019-20, manufacturing and services were over 4.5 times more productive than in agriculture. So the labor basically there was more productive, whereas in agriculture it was less productive. And you see how much it accounts for in the employment number, 42%. The paper also estimates that India needs at least 143 to 324 million jobs for its growing population by 2050. So what will this do? This will advance India's structural transformation. Now that paper also gave some policy recommendation. So first is strengthening education and skilling. So India's labor force still have a fewer years of formal education as compared to other nation, and even the quality of education is very low. And the evidences you can get from the ACER 2023 report. So we need to their education system and our skilling system. We have to eliminate this industria and academia linkage failure. So basically, what is being taught in the school, higher education, and colleges, and what is the demand in the industry, there should not be a gap. This gap needs to be filled. Then, advancing labor market reform is another suggestion. What it will do, it will enhance the labor market's flexibility. So basically, there are very stringent norms from the investor's point of view. So now To attract more investors and to widen the labor market base, we need to give some relaxation. So advancing labor market reform is one of the solution. Then third is fostering trade. We can sign bilateral trade agreements. We can remove tariff restrictions to promote trade. Then we need to remove red tape. Then public investment is needed on a continued push so that we can develop a strong physical infrastructure. And apart from all this, we have to maintain a social safety net. So we have to strengthen a social safety net. We have to facilitate the access to credit to the small and medium enterprises, the MSME sector in particular. So these were the policy recommendation. And in conclusion of any answer, we can use this line that a balanced and inclusive structural transformation is vital for India to sustain a high growth. Here you can also mention the Viksit Bharat 2047 aim. Then the magazine has mentioned some keywords. You can read them by your own and you can practice this question. The second topic is growth and development. So, in growth and development, first we will see Household Consumption Expenditure Survey 2023. So, what were the important findings of this survey? So, this survey tells us that the average monthly per capita expenditure of rural is around rupees 400, 4,122 and urban is around 6,996. And recently, the urban rural gap has reduced from 84% in 2012 to 70% in 2024, indicating that the rural consumption had shown growth. Then there was increased spending on non-food items. So basically, these non-food items dominated the expenditure, 53% in rural and 60% in urban. Then consumption inequality. So Gini coefficient declined to 0.237 and 0.284 in rural and urban respectively, reflecting reduced income disparity. This we can use in the any answers of inclusive growth. Then about some facts about household consumption survey expenditure. So it is basically conducted by NSSO. This is more prelim specific. What are the key objectives? So the objectives are it captures data on household consumption of goods and services, which reflects the living standards and also gives insights about the well-being. It also provides a basis for revising the base year. Now, our next topic is inclusive growth. So, if any question comes about inclusive growth, we should have some fodder. The fodder must include a definition. So, how we can write it, the definition of inclusive growth? We can write that inclusive growth is an economic growth that creates opportunity for all segments of the population, and distributes dividends of increased prosperity, both in monetary and non-monetary terms, fairly across society. So this definition has been given by OECD. Now, what are the dimensions? So it has social dimension that the economic growth should be affordable. There should be quality education, quality healthcare. Then there should be a financial inclusion. then the growth should be politically transparent and efficient. There must be zero corruption. Then the growth must be sustainable, environmentally sustainable. Then the stakeholders should include the private sector, the government, as well as the NGOs, various other stakeholders. Now, what are the challenges to inclusive growth in India? So, first is poverty. Around 129 million Indians still are living in the extreme poverty. This is as per World Bank report 2024. Then there is inequality. So, as per a data in 2023, India richest is owning around 40.1% of country's wealth. The report was World Inequality Lab study. Then there are social and cultural barriers. For example, there is discrimination. There is restriction to access on education, employment, and healthcare on the basis of caste, gender, religion, or maybe some other factors. Then there is a high unemployment. The unemployment rate is around 4.9%, which is comparatively still very high. Then there are various other issues like skill gap, corruption, etc. Now, what are the initiatives? So, in the education and skill development sector, we have the new education policy. We have PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana. For health and social security, we have Jan Arogya Yojana, Jeevan Jyoti Yojana. Then for financial inclusion, we have the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, the JAM Trinity, the PM Mudra Yojana. Then for employment generation, we have the Manrega. We also have Prime Minister Employment Generation Program. Then what can be the way forward? Way forward, you can write that we have to focus on financial empowerment through credit and financial skills and entrepreneurship development. Then we need to expand the health and social security through various schemes and also cover the middle class, which is currently missing. Then universal basic income can also be used as a way forward that we can provide a periodic cash payment. Then other uh, measures we can take is we can promote circular economy. We can strengthen the skill development initiatives. So basically, these are some points which you can write in the way forward on any of the questions which come relating to inclusive growth. Now, the next topic is about the northeastern India. So, Prime Minister of India basically inaugurated the Rising Northeast Summit 2025. Now, what were the key highlights? Why Northeast was portrayed as the front runner of growth? So, talking about the sectors and what were the highlights? So, if we look at the textile, handloom, and handicraft sector, Northeastern region is a hub for sustainable textile and handicraft. So, Northeastern region is a hub. For example, you can write the Assam's GI tag, Muga silk. We have the Nagaland tribal shawl, and around more than 50% of looms and weaver which are in the country have origin in the northeastern states. They are basically the residents of the northeastern states. Then, if you look at the renewable energy, so basically these are the points for each sector. These are the points which are substantiating the argument that Northeast is a front runner of growth. So, in the renewable energy, Northeast holds over 60 gigawatt of exploitable conventional hydropower potential. You can say almost around 40% of India's total conventional hydro power potential. Then in the IT and ITs, so there has been a rapid IT infrastructure development. For example, you can write the 100-acre IT park in Assam. Then in the infrastructure and logistic sector. So basically in 2024-2025, 78 kilometers of national highways were built with bridges like the Dhola Sadia and Bogibel, which has enhanced the connectivity. Then in the education sector, you can write that there is a high literacy. Mizoram is literacy rate is around 92, Tripura is around 88, Nagaland is almost 80. And one point which I missed is in the infrastructure and logistics, not infrastructure and logistics, the air connectivity. So it has been improved with 17 airports. Earlier in 2013, there were only 9 functional airports. Now there are 17 airports. Then agriculture. So the northeastern region is rich in agrobiodiversity, and the climate of that region supports organic and various high valued crops like you have the kiwi, pineapple, lemon, Johar rice, and Assam tea. And over 60% of population in agriculture there is mostly small and marginal farmer. So wherever we have such a huge population of small and marginal farmer, it always play a key role in the agriculture sector. Then now what are the challenges? So the challenges in the northeastern region. First is the Chicken Neck Corridor or the Siliguri Corridor. So because of it, we have a poor connectivity to the mainstream. Then there are issues of insurgency and armed conflicts. Naxalism is there. We have Kuki Mithi clashes in Manipur. We had them recently in 2023. Then we have the narco-terrorism. So the border are very porous and they are in immense close proximity with the Golden Triangle. That is the Myanmar, with Thailand and Laos. Then we also have human right violations in the northeastern region due to the lack of accountability under the AFSPA Act of 1948. Then there are also vulnerabilities regarding to environment, like we have annual Brahmaputra floods, which causes lakhs of people to displace from Assam. So now talking about some of the initiatives for development of northeastern region. So we have this MOFDECNAN Mission Organic Value Chain Development for Northeastern Region. Then we also have peace and security initiatives like ULFA Peace Accord 2023. We have this PM Divine, which is Prime Minister Development Initiative for Northeastern Region. So this scheme is aiming for a rapid and holistic development of the region. Then internationally, we have projects like we have some regional activity projects like Kaladan Multimodal Project, and we also have the BBIM Motor Vehicle Agreement. This is the this is India, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. They have agreed, and a motorbike track is being allowed. Then we also have Act East Forum led by India and Japan, which is promoting connectivity within the northeastern region and between the northeastern region and Southeast Asia. Now, what can be the way forward? We have to reduce insurgencies. We have to diversify access across the routes. We have to address illegal migrants. We have to ensure border security, and we have to improve the integration of northeastern region, the rest of India. So the next topic is middle income trap. So there was why it is in news. So India needs to grow by 7.8% on average over the next 22 years to become high income country by 2047. This has been stated by World Bank. Now, what is this middle income trap? So, it is basically a situation wherein rapidly growing economies stagnates at middle income levels and fails to graduate into the ranks of high income countries. And how the World Bank classifies such nations. So, it says the economies which are having per capita gross national income between 1135 US dollar to 13,846 are in middle income trap. So what is making India vulnerable to this middle income trap? So first is the untapped human capital. So there is a skill gap. Only 51% graduates are employable as per our economic survey of 23-24. Then there is lack of innovation capability. So India's R&D investment as a percentage to GDP is very low. It is just 0.64%. Whereas if you'll see in China, it is 2.4% and it is around 3.5% in US. Then there is rising income inequality. So the top 1% owns around 22.6% of income and it also owns around 40% of wealth. Then there is a stagnated industrialization. So we have a leapfrog jump from agriculture to service, and we left the manufacturing sector. And today we can see what manufacturing sector can do if we look at the case of China. Then there is also a decline in the private investment, particularly from 2008 financial global financial crisis. Then there is also rising external debt. So in March 2024, it rose by 6.4% as compared to the previous year. There are also climate action challenges. Then what is the way ahead? So the World Bank report in itself suggests the three I strategy. The first I refers to investment, the second refers to infusion, and the third for innovation. So basically, it calls to improve the investment and then it also tries to bring new ideas from abroad and diffuse them across the economy. And at last, economy should expand its efforts to become a innovative economy. So this is the three I strategy given by World Bank report. This can be mentioned in any answer if there is a question regarding to this topic. Then the next topic is about poverty. Poverty in India. So what is the current status? So in India, the poverty rate fell from 61.8% in 2011-12 to 28.1% in 2023-2024. So there has been a fall in the poverty rate. Then the poorer states like UP, Bihar, Odisha, they recorded faster decline, which also indicates reduction in disparities. Then we also saw a significant fall in Indians living in extreme poverty. So earlier this number used to be around 431 million pre the pre-reform in the pre-reform period, that is 1990s. But in 2024, as per World Bank, now the number of Indians living in extreme poverty is only 129 million. So there has been a significant decline. Then, what are the factors behind poverty in India? So there, we can write historical factors, which is the exploitative colonial rule. Then we can also write there is a low agriculture productivity. Agriculture is contributing just 18%, whereas the employment there is around 42%. So there is a low agriculture productivity and there are issues of disguised unemployment. Then we also have social inequalities. So around 53% of women outside the labor force. So because of the care responsibility, they are not included in the labor force. Then we also have environmental factors like floods in the northern plain especially. Then recently we also have the population explosion. As per the current reports we have surpassed China. Then what are the initiatives undertaken? So first is we are trying to promote financial inclusion through PM Jan Dhan Yojana, PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, etc. Then we are working on infrastructure and basic services through schemes like PM Gram Sadak Yojana. We have the Ujjwala Yojana. We have the PM Awas Yojana. Then we are also trying to secure some livelihood through the Manrega scheme, and we are also trying to give food security via One Nation, One Ration card. Then for human capital development, we are now working on the capability approach of the famous scholar Amartya Sen. So we now have schemes like PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana. We have schemes like Ayushman Bharat. Then in way format we can write Niti Aayog's recommendation for employment intensive sustained rapid growth. Then we can write about enabling inclusive growth. We can also write the two-way strategy, that is to modernize agriculture, increasing the productivity, and create more jobs in industries and services side by side. So these are some of the way forward that we can write. Now, in this topic only, we have few more points. So the India's poverty measurement framework. So existing official poverty lines which we use, that is the Tendulkar and Rangarajan suggested one. They are outdated, and the issue is they don't reflect the current deprivation. So there was a study which said that there is an urgent need for revision of the poverty measurement framework. Now that report only suggested some uh, proposals which could be done. So it says that relative poverty line based on 33 percentile of consumption. So basically, instead of fixing a poverty line, is defined based on the spending of the bottom 33% of the population. This is the one of the recommendations in that study. Then another is the example of Europe. So in Europe, poverty is defined as 60% of the median income. This can be applied in India also. Then what is the significance of this new poverty line? So this will reflect the updated consumption patterns and it will help us addressing the current deprivation. This will also ensure that poverty threshold adjusts automatically with economic growth, and this will provide a more accurate measure of poverty in modern India. So if any question comes on the methodology of how we are measuring the poverty, so how the current measure is ineffective and what are the changes we need to bring in, you can write all these points there. Now, another topic in this poverty is the urban poverty. So, recently, the Odisha government launched an initiative known as Sahyog. So, basically, this was to facilitate. access to government welfare schemes for the urban poor. So, what is the current status of urbanization and urban poverty in India? So, urban population has doubled in the last 60 years from around 17% to 31%. And over 50% of India's population, that is somewhere around 877 million, will be urban by 2050. This is as per a UN finding. Now, the World Bank Poverty and Equity Brief findings are extreme urban poverty dropped from 10.7 to 1.1% in the last 10 or 12 odd years. Then the Gini index improved from 28.8 to 25.5, which shows that is there is a reducing income inequality, but still there is inequality and a high inequality as compared to US and other developed nations. Then urban unemployment fell to 6.6% in quarter one of financial year 2024-25. This has been also the lowest since 2017. Now, what are the differences between urban and rural poverty? So, if you talk about in terms of relative poverty, so there is a coexistence of Dharavi and the skyscrapers luxury hotels in Mumbai. Then urban poor often rely on informal employment, whereas if you see in the rural areas, poverty is closely linked to limited access to land, water, agriculture resources. Then in the rural areas, the people living there often lack adequate infrastructure and basic services, whereas whereas in the urban areas, the urban poor, they face barriers in accessing basic services despite they are available. So in rural, the issue is regarding to the availability, lack of availability, and in the urban, it is lack of access despite their availability. Then in urban settings, the poor may have weaker social network and support system as compared to the rural areas. Now, what are the reasons for persistence of urban poverty? So, first reason is haphazard urbanization. We have a large number of migration, and there are policy gaps which are excluding the urban poor. Then we have regional disparities. So, underdeveloped tier 2, tier 3 cities, they are creating excessive pressures on megacities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore. Then there are also social security gaps. These are because of exclusion errors. So many of the poor urban migrants, they are lacking residency or identity proof, which basically excludes them from the welfare programs of the government. Then there is a vicious poverty cycle. So poverty is basically limiting the access to education and employment, which is perpetuating intergenerational poverty. Now, what are some of the government initiatives? First is One Nation, Ration card. This ensures food security. Then second is Swachh Bharat Mission Urban 2.0. So this focuses on construction of latrines and management. So the basic facilities could be provided to the urban poor. Then we have PM Awas Yojana Urban. Here the government is providing housing for EWS categories and slum dwellers. Then we have Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. So this is for the self-employment and skill wage opportunities for urban poor. Then we have PM Swanidhi. This provides microcredit facility for street vendors. We also have Smart Cities Mission. So the way forward which We can include a case study of inclusive urbanization in Kudamshri, where uh, where the people's participation has been in the decision making and the people's participation has been decentralized. So Kudamshri, which is the Kerala Women's Network, so it has worked very nicely in the National Urban Livelihood Mission implementation. Then we can improve rural infrastructure, which will reduce distressed migration. Then we can also see the model of Indore. So Indore has been a perfect example, a perfect case study of Swachh Bharat mission success. It has been for years ranked number one in India as the most cleanest city. Then we can try to fix the inclusion exclusion error and we can enhance the monitoring so that the targeted social security is improved. Then for in any answers or introduction also you can write these points like by 2050 Indian cities are expected to contribute more than 75% of our GDP and about 60% of our greenhouse gas emission. Thus, it is vital to effectively tackle the issues of urban poverty and sustainable development of our urban areas. This will contribute to the goal of Viksit Bharat. Next is about economic indicators. So, the government has formed an advisory committee on national account statistics to update the GDP base year from existing 2011-12 to 2022-23. Now, this advisory committee on NAS will review data sources to align GDP with inflation and industrial indices. So, what is base year? Base year is basically a benchmark which is used to calculate GDP. Now, what is the need to update the base year? So, we have to remove the inflation effects. We have to enhance the data quality. And updating the GDP base year helps us comparing GDP of our nation with other nations, and it also helps us to adopt post-pandemic dynamics, and it supports the policy making which is happening right now. Then what are the limitations of GDP? So it excludes non-market activity, that is, for example, household work. It ignores income inequality. It overlooks environmental damages. It misses the informal sector contribution. Then it doesn't measure welfare or living standard. So there are basically three methods of calculating GDP, which is production, expenditure, and income. Now moving on to next one is WPI base year revision. So measures of the average change. What is WPI? So the measures of the average change of prices of a fixed set of goods at the first point of bulk sale in a commercial transaction in the domestic market over a given period of time. That is basically our wholesale price index. Now this is released by Office of Economic Advisor. Then the components of the basket. So it comprises 697 items. So these are all more lens specific. What is main specific is why do we need a revision in the WPI base year? So there have been fundamental changes in the production and consumption patterns over the year. Then we need to revise this to allow for inclusion of emerging products and removal of the obsolete ones. Then we need to ensure the compatibility of WPI with the GST also. So that is why we need revisions. Now, just like WPI, there is producer price index also. So it measures the average change in the price a producer receives for his goods, services sold in the domestic markets or even in the international market. Now, why there is a need to replace WPI by Producer's Price Index? So there are three, 4 points. First is multiple counting bias. So WPI has inbuilt bias due to double multiple counting of same product. Then there is exclusion of service. So WPI and WPI is excluding the service sector, which has about 55% of GDP contribution. Now then there is exclusion of taxes. So the WPI series considers only the basic price. It does not include the taxes. It does not include the rebate or the trade discount given or the transport or other type of charges. So that is why we need to replace the WPI by PPI. Now, what is the advantages of PPI? So first, it will cover service. Then it will exclude indirect taxes among some, but will also include among some. Then it has an international prominence. So PPI is being used by many developed countries like USA also. So that's for this topic. The next one is financial inclusion. Financial inclusion in India, what is the status? So this is the fact about 78% of our adult population is estimated to have a bank account. Only 22% are excluded. So we are somewhere moving towards financial inclusion. Now, what are the initiatives which has resulted in the increased financial inclusion? It is PM Jan Dhan Yojana, it is the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion, the UPI, the DPT transfers, the Aadhaar enabled KYC, the Kisan credit card scheme, and various other. And what is the significance? So first is it plugs credit gaps. So it allows MSMEs to access credits. Then it encourages saving habit. So that will increase the capital formation in the country. Then it creates a multiplier effect. Then it also plugs subsidy leaks. So saving through DBT during 2020 to 23 crossed around 63,000 crores. So such a large number, such a large money could have was actually saved from issues of leakages. Then it is also a key enabler for various sustainable development goals. What are the challenges? So the demand side challenges, there is lower income or asset holding. Then there is lack of awareness. If we see from the supply side, then the financial institutions' refusal to serve low value and non-profitable consumers with uneven income. This is also a challenge. Then we have stringent KYC requirements. We have gender and socioeconomic barriers like discrimination. Then we have digital and infrastructure gaps. We have lack of financial literacy. So again, the way forward for this could be Jam Trinity and leveraging the fintech innovations like mobile banking, promoting of financial literacy, then strengthening cyber data security, and initiatives like PM Atal Pension Yojana. Our next topic is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So it completed 10 years. So what is PMJDY? So it is a national mission for financial inclusion. And it is the world's largest financial inclusion scheme. It is aiming that every Indian is be ensured access to financial services. Then what are the basic tenets of the schemes? So it is made up of 6 pillars. What are the 6 pillars? It is first is universal access to banking services. Second is credit guarantee fund. Third is financial literacy program. Fourth is micro insurance financial literacy program. Fifth is basic saving accounts, and sixth is pension scheme for unorganized sector. So basically, the scheme is focusing on every unbanked adult and trying them to bring those people into the banking sector. So what have been the achievements in the last 10 years? So large number of accounts have been opened. So in 2015, there were 14.72 crore accounts, and in 2024, there are 53.13 crore Jan Dhan accounts. So this is one of the major achievement. Then there has been a boost to digital economy. Around 37 crore RuPay cards have been issued to these PMJDY account holders. Then the third is bridging financial gaps in rural areas. So how almost around 100% of villages are covered with banking outlets in each 500-kilometer mapped area under the Jan Dhan Varshak app. Then we have the average deposit in these accounts have increased by almost 4.12 times in the last 10 years, and the current deposit is more than 2.3 lakh crores. And also the number of zero balance account decreased. Earlier they used to be 8.52 crores. Now they have just come to half, around 4.26 crores in 2024-25. Then we also have this next topic, microfinance. So 50 years of microfinance. So self-employed women association bank Seva. It started in Gujarat in 1974. Actually, there is a debate. The official site of Seva itself tells that it started in 1972. But anyway, the concept is important. So, what is microfinance? So, it is a banking service targeting poor households and small enterprises in rural areas. So, the services. So, they provide credit to poorer and smaller enterprises. But many also takes deposit. Some MFIs can also offer financial services such as insurance or advice and training to their clients. Now, what is the significance? So, first, the significance is in the poverty alleviation. So, NABARD, through the Self-Help Group Bank Linkage Program, has empowered 17.8 crore households through more than 144 lakh self-help groups. Then it also promotes entrepreneurship. 46% of the microfinance loans are provided to families having monthly income less than rupees 20,000 for working capital. Then it also promotes women empowerment. Around 88% of self-help group linked to banks are being led by women. For example, the Kadamshri in Kerala. Then it is also promoting financial inclusion. The social impacts of such microfinance institutions have also been positive. For example, we can quote the Ujjivan Small Finance Bank Chote Kadam initiative, which has made significant contribution to the healthcare sector by renovating multiple PHCs and hospitals. Now, what are the challenges? So there is a over indebtedness. Microcredits are also charged at higher interest rate. Then there is a multiple regulator, like we have RBI, we have state government, we have State Cooperative Societies Act. Then there is lack of collateral and risk of default, which has led to increased non-performing assets. Then striking a balance between social impact and financial sustainability is an ongoing challenge, as very few MFIs are actually profitable. Then what were the initiatives undertaken? So we have Mudra Yojana, which offers collateral-free microcredit up to 20 lakh for small businesses. Then we have non-banking financial companies and the MFI's flexibility. So RBI in 2014 have allowed the NBFC MFIs to act as business correspondent. What do we mean by business correspondents? So basically these are the agents nominated by bank in rural area which can provide the basic banking functions, facilities to the people. Then the RBI framework 2022. So it defined microfinance loans and repayment norms. Then the NABARD is also providing long-term financial support to MFIs. And a way forward for this topic would be limiting the number of lenders per borrowers to three from four. So cap outstanding loans per borrower at rupees 2 lakh from rupees 3 lakh. Then we can also promote financial literacy, which can improve financial inclusion through insurance and growth of microfinance industry. Now, next topic is direct benefit transfer. So, as per a recent report by the SBI, the amount to women through various schemes has crossed 2 trillion. Now, what is cash transfer? So, it is basically some of the examples are like how we support the farmer income through PM Kisan, or how we support the old age sector by giving them pensions. So it is a form of direct benefit transfer. Then these are examples of cash transfer. There are also examples of support provided in kind, like PDS, uh, school meals under the PM Poshan Abhiyan. Then what is the key enabler for DBT? It is the JAM Trinity, the mobile money, the business correspondent infrastructure, and the payment banks. Now, what has been the impact? So, effective implementation of schemes has been there since 2016. Direct benefit transfer has delivered over 450 schemes to around 900 million people. Then there is there has been a essential relief provided during the time of lockdown. Around 27,442 crores were transferred to almost 11.5 crore beneficiaries directly to their accounts. Then the corruption rate has reduced. The financial inclusion of the nation has also increased. But still, there are some challenges. What are these? These are the identification of beneficiaries. For example, in 2022, 6.65 lakh farmers lost the PM Kisan benefit. So basically, they were excluded and they were not identified. So such exclusion errors are a challenge. Then there are compliance and operational issues. Then only 27% of the villages have financial presence of banks. So this is a very low number. Then, as usual, our digital divide, our illiteracy rate is very high. We have low financial inclusion. So what can be the way forward? Way forward can be targeted outreach for marginalized groups such as informal sector workers. Then digital literacy among rural population can be promoted. Then we can also promote digital infrastructure, and we should have a single window grievance redressal system. And next topic is inequality. So, what is the status of inequality in India? So, the top 1% owes 22.6% of income. Top 5% of Indians are owing more than 60% of country's wealth. The average monthly per capita expenditure divide between urban and rural is around 2,500 or more. Then the gender pay gap. Indian woman earns rupees 40 for every 100 rupees earned by men. So this is the status of inequality in India. And what have been the reasons? Uneven economic growth, COVID-19 pandemic. So the pandemic so diminished the wealth of the bottom 50% of Indian population. Then we have a regressive taxation system. Then lack of education and healthcare. Then what are the measures undertaken? So here you can write all those measures which have been included in the inclusive growth, financial inclusion, social security, gender equality. Then what have been the challenges? So the challenges are limited financial resources. There have been persistent social inequalities. There have been inefficient governance. There has been resistance to structural reforms. Then the way forward is progressive taxation, addressing social cultural barriers, strengthening social security measures, access to education and healthcare, and promoting policies that create job opportunities. Then we also have regional disparities in development. So there was a working paper, named titled Relative Economic Performance of Indian States. So it highlighted that there is a disparity in relative per capita income. Western and southern regions are outperforming. For example, Delhi's per capita income is 250.8% of the national average. Then there is a dominance of southern states in GDP contribution. So five states, Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, they contribute over 30% of India's GDP in the last year. Then there is better performance of maritime state except for Bengal. Then eastern states still remains a concern. Now, what has been the factors for regional disparity? First is historical, the British policies. Second is geographical. The northeastern states have a difficult terrain and adverse climate. Then third is economic, the dominance of primary economic activity, that is agriculture. For example, in Maharashtra, in the UP belt, in the Bihar belt. Then we have infrastructure deficit, which limits growth in underdeveloped region. Then the governance factors, we had unstable government, we had law and order issues in few of the places. What are the implications of regional disparity in development? There are security threats, example, nationalism. We have political fragmentation. For example, we have creation of Telangana state and demand for Vidarbha state. Then we have uh, reinforcing imbalance, that is, prosper area attracts more investment and then they'll grow more, and the deficit area will be remain in greater deficits. Then there are also environmental impacts. So, as we've seen that Delhi is 250.8% of the national average in the per capita income. So the pollution in Delhi is also very, very high and severe. The AQI index is almost for majority of the times above than the suitable levels. Then what can be the way ahead? So we can increase focus on programs such as hill area development, drought-prone area development. This will target the specific regional needs instead of going by the one-size-fits-all approach. Then funding should be tied to meeting development standards. There should be good governance in backward states. There should be a balanced infrastructure development. And there must be investment and involvement of science and technology in agriculture. And currently, we are in the era of AI revolution. We can also inculcate AI into agriculture. So these are all the measures that can be taken. Now, the next topic is from the rural point of view, rural industrialization. So what is the role of rural industrialization in national development? It is crucial for rural economy. It provides off-season additional employment. It helps us in inclusive national development. It helps us gain balanced industrialization, and it is also empowering the women, the SCs, the STs. Now, what are the major hurdles in the path to rural industries to flourish? There is the protection syndrome. Though we have overcome it to some extent after the 1990s reform, but we are still unable to compete with the imported products. Then there is inability to access of adequate credit on time. Then we have inadequate infrastructure for marketing, for transporting. for scientific storage facilities. Then competition for procuring raw material from urban industries is very high. Then there is a lack of appropriate technology, and there is also an ability of adoption of available technologies, as there is inertia in the people who are living in the rural landscape. Then what have been the key initiatives? So the key initiatives have been formal institutional arrangements like Khadi Village Industry Commission, then promotion of traditional industries. For example, we had the Ustad scheme, then facilitating of credit via NABARD, SIDBI, and even the self-help group and microfinance institutions. Then imparting training and development of skills. Then we have schemes for agro-based industries like Aspire scheme for agro-based industry, PM Sampada for food processing. Then the way ahead for fast tracking the process of rural industrialization is formulation of rural industrial policy, defining rural industries, upgrading techniques of production, integrated approach for skill development, and harnessing the potential of rural women. Now, what can be the role of technology in rural growth? So, rural smart village centers, they were launched in Mandwara, Haryana. So, what are these? They are developed under the aegis of Principal Scientific Advisor, and they aim to integrate cutting-edge technologies with rural need. Now, the key features is they offer long-term supports at panchayat level, and they emphasizes on collaborating with platforms like ONDC, Amazon, etc. And they plan to expand the 20 new centers and empower women entrepreneurs through techpreneurs. So now what is the role of technology in rural growth? So if we see in agriculture, platforms like Enam helps the farmer to connect with the market. They can get better prices and the trade is also transparent. Then in the entrepreneurship, we have the e-commerce. Whole of the e-commerce is based on uh, technology. So e-commerce and 3D printing can support small businesses. They can allow them to access global markets, which will somehow also reduce our imports. Then in the education sector, we have PME Vidya program and the SWAM, which offer online education, which will improve the quality learning and it will help to reduce the digital divide, which is especially persisting in the rural landscape. Then we also have water management. We have national program on aquifer mapping and management, which uses technology to manage underground resources. This will all ensure the efficient use of water in the agriculture, as agriculture is majorly dominated in the rural landscape only. Then it also help in financial inclusion. So the DBT program, the JAM Trinity, the cashless transfer has reduced the risk of fraud, reduced the leakages, reduced the corruption, and also increased the transparency. So some examples of government initiative where the government is trying to promote technology in rural areas is TARA, which is technological advancement for rural areas. Then we have the eShram portal. Then we have National Optic Fiber Network. So it connects state capital districts and 2.5 lakh gram panchayat, which will improve the internet bandwidth and connectivity. Then we also have digital land record monetization program. Now our next topic is land reform. So some key factors: 1.15 hectare is the average farm size. That was in 2010, 2011, and less than 10% of land is under non-agriculture use. 25% of total geographical area of India is forest. Now, what were the key objective of land reform? Legalizing each land using and consolidate fragmented plots, digitalize and integrated land record system, efficiency in management and forest land, strengthening property rights. And what were the constraints? So constraints were land inequality. The top 10% owns 45% of farmland. Then there is land fragmentation. So our National Statistical Office, a report of 2019 says that 35.6% of farmers own less than 1 hectare of land. Then there is legal complexity, as land is a state subject. So there are conflicting state laws. Then there is also a lack of credit. Now, what have been the initiative? The initiative have been DILRM, that is Digital India Land Record Modernization Program. Then we have Swamithu, that is Survey of Village and Mapping with Improvised Technology in Village Area Scheme. We also have NLRM, NLRMP, that is National Land Record Modernization Program. We also have the Model Land Leasing Act 2016. So that act is ensuring the rights and it is reducing tenant-owner disputes through well-defined provisions. So what can be the way forward? We can adopt Model Land Leasing Act 2016 in various states. We can have land pooling to improve productivity. We can also leverage lands for urban growth, and we can promote public-private partnership for the development of wasteland. Now, what is this digitalization of land record? So, the Union Ministry notified that nearly 90% of land records have been digitized in rural India since 2016 due to the DILRMP. So, what has been the development? So, there has been computerization of all revenue codes in the country, and there has been a consent-based linking of Aadhaar number with records of right. So the key initiative under DILRMP are Bhu Aadhaar, National Generic Document Registration System, E-Code Integration, Bhumi Samman. But why and what was the need for digitalization of land record? So the first is there were land ownership disputes, lack of conclusive titling, illegal land acquisition through forgery and Benami property, which led to increased land ownership dispute. More than 60% of litigation in India is land related. Then there were inefficient administrative processes, which led to corruption, land grabbing. Then the mapping was outdated. Records were not being representative of the ground reality, which persists currently. Then the property tax and land-based financing from a major source of revenue for local government, and we need to strengthen this source of revenue for local government. So we need to digitalize the land records. Now, what were the challenges? So the challenges were in approach of departments. Examples, so the sale deeds are stored in registration department, maps in the survey department, property tax receipt in the revenue department. So for various kind of paper for the same line, the storage has been in various other departments of the government. So this has been a challenge. Then there has been a resistance from the stakeholders. There has been infrastructure gap in certain regions. There have been procedural complexities, and there have been technological constraints also. Okay, so last topic of this segment is Nobel Prize in Economics, Institution and Prosperity. So the news was that in the 2024 Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded to Darren Acemoglu, Sim Johnson, and James A. Robinson. Not important for means, but what were the key highlights of their research? So they highlighted the colonial impact on prosperity, the reversal of fortune, the poorest become the richest, and the uh, countries which were colonized were exploited. Then they also told about the role of economic and political institutions in shaping national prosperity. So how it is done through resource allocation and property right, like Article 300A. then incentives for investment, then there are governance and rule of law, then there is inclusiveness. So this is basically not that important topic. So we can skip this one. So yeah, two components of the matching have been done. The third component, employment, labor, and skill development, we will be doing in next part. So, revising what have we done till now? We have seen Indian economy at glance. We have seen India's structural transformation. Then we saw the household consumption expenditure. Then we saw topic of inclusive growth. Then we saw Northeast as a frontier of growth. Then we have learned about middle income trap. Then we looked at the poverty, the urban poverty, the poverty measurement framework. Then we saw the GDP base year revision, WPI base year revision. Then we discussed topics of financial inclusion, the status, 10 years of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, 50 years of microfinance, direct benefit transfer at glance. Then we discussed inequality, economic inequality in India at glance. Then we have depth in detail in the regional disparity in development. Then we saw the rural development, the rural industrialization at glance, the role of technology in rural growth. Then we saw land reforms, and at the last, we skipped this Nobel Prize in economics, which was, I think, not of much importance in mains. But yeah, I've marked the PDF, so you can read the highlighted sentences of this topic also. We starting the employment, labor, and skill development.